All right. Yeah, that's different music, isn't it? Hello, Kristin and Ann. How are you doing today?
Hey, hi John. I'm good.
The new and improved Bringing Water to Life, everybody. It's exciting, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm
So,
so excited.
uh, have you guys ever listened to our first season of Bringing Water to Life? Were you an avid listener to version 1.0 now that we're into
Oh,
this?
I was. I listened to it pretty regularly.
Did you? What'd you think? Did you like it?
Oh, I loved it. I
Yeah,
loved it was something different every week.
that's good. Kristin, you were on the show. You were on the program a few times in the version
I
1.0.
I was, yes. Whenever I was out in the office, you pulled me into an episode and that was fun.
Yeah, good. Well, this is our version 2.0, everybody. Welcome to Bring Water to Life. I am John Farner. I am the only recognizable person from the regular host from version 1.0. So Elizabeth McCartney is no longer with the Irrigation Association. She's still alive, don't worry. I mean, she's still around, but she's no longer employed by the Irrigation Association. So we wanted to get our podcast back up and running and thought to ourselves, you know what? Let's build this thing from scratch. Brent is, I guess, transitioning to be a permanent remote employee, going to part-time eventually out in Colorado. We will have Brent on the program regularly for those of you who are interested in hearing Brent's thoughts and his tips of the day and things like that. But our regulars will be Ann Blankenbiller and Kristin Smith-Ely, which I am very excited about. So basically, what I wanted to do first was have folks get to know you. All right, because that's people know me. I mean, they've heard me speak on this
Mhm.
podcast for 50 some odd episodes. So let's start with Ann first.
Okay,
Ann,
great.
okay. So tell us a little bit about you. What's going on? Who are you? Why are you here? As Admiral Stockdale once said when he ran for vice president with Ross Perot.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, John, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this podcast. I'm thrilled that it's back on air, and I'm very excited that Irrigation Today magazine and I can be a part of it. My position, I had kind of have two positions. I'm the senior communications manager for the Irrigation Association, and I'm also the editor of Irrigation Today magazine, which is the magazine completely focused on farm ag irrigation. A little bit about me, I actually live in Lincoln, Nebraska, which, I was thinking about this podcast and how we represent all parts of the United States. John's over on the East Coast, Kristin's on the West Coast, and I'm smack dab in the middle. So
not,
we've got it covered.
not a flyover state. Yeah, I would not consider where you are a flyover state by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, good. Thank you. We appreciate that. And a little bit about my background. I grew up pseudo in agriculture. Um, I didn't live on a farm, but my dad he worked for a seed company as a researcher for quite a few years and then opened his own farm management company. And we had livestock on the side. So we were town kids that had livestock and showed at county fairs and state fairs. And I was very involved in 4-H and FFA. So I have a little bit of ag background, enough to be a little dangerous, but irrigation is a little new to me. Um, and I've lived in the Midwest all my life. I graduated from Kansas State University, and then my husband's job moved us to Lincoln, Nebraska, probably 18 years ago. And after 3 kids and being a stay-at-home mom, I got back into the publications industry through some freelance writing and editing, and that's how I came to the Irrigation Association and have been involved with them for probably 8 years.
Awesome. So, Kristin, you introduced yourself a little bit previous. So, give us a little, short background about you and as a host of the Bring Water Life podcast now.
Sure, and I echo his comments that I'm really glad to be part of the podcast and that it's back in its version 2.0. So I've been with the Irrigation and Green Industry magazine. I was brought on in December of 2017 to be the editor-in-chief after the Irrigation Association purchased the magazine and made the transition into full management of the magazine. And so my background, I actually, though I'm right now I'm based in San Diego. I grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania and then spent the last 10 years in Cleveland, Ohio, and recently in December then came out to San Diego, where my husband is attending law school at the University of San Diego. He's now in his second year, one more to go after this. My background is, I've always liked writing. I've always, wanted to have that as a career. I remember first getting excited about journalism when I was in 7th grade and I had to write a paper on Watergate and I didn't know what it was. And so I got really interested in journalism from that point and recognized just what an important job it is. And went to school for communications, did broadcasting for a little bit. I thought I wanted to do that. And then I found myself working for a newspaper and realized I really liked print journalism, and kind of from that point on stuck with that path. And of course, during this time was like the early 2000s. It was also the time when media was kind of morphing and becoming a little bit of everything. So it wasn't just print or video, as evidenced by us being here today. We're all doing a little bit of everything. We're social media, we're video, we're vloggers, we're, and then print, of course, which is near and dear to my heart. So,
well, good. Now, gosh, by the end of the last podcast, Brent, Elizabeth, and I had really good chemistry, and I feel like we will get there. So, not that we don't have good chemistry now, but for our listening audience, it'll only get better. This is already good, but it's going to get better from here, believe me. Now, I would like to introduce one more person, and for those of you, so we're changing some things up. We are available on all of our regular channels. So if you listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, we will always be there. We're now also on iHeartRadio, and we're also on Spotify. There's all kinds of ways to get us. bwtlpodcast.com. We're the same ways. We're also recording us. So as Ann mentioned, I'm out here in Fairfax, Virginia. Ann's out in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Kristin's out in San Diego, California. We are all on webcam right now, so it's like we're talking to each other. We can see each other speak. And we're also recording this, and we're going to try to put this on YouTube as well. So if you want to see us do this podcast, not live because, it won't be live, but it'll be recorded, you'll see us in person recording this. Just go to our YouTube page, and we'll link that from the bwtlpodcast.com, and you can click on that and watch us record this podcast in person. One more person, I'm going to turn your mic, is Sarah Bunye. Sarah, I'm going to move the cam over to you. Say hello, Sarah.
Hi, everyone.
So Sarah is the digital content editor for Irrigation Green Industry.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Okay. And you're going to help out a little bit with the podcast here and there, kind of in the back end, right? And she can chime in every once in a while where she deems necessary. Just put this right here and turn your mic on and chime in.
All right.
Keep me honest, all right?
All right.
Kind of like you hear the producers in the background. So anyway, all right. So we're going to start out here. We're not doing the birthday game anymore. Are you guys sad about that or happy about that?
I'm a little happy about that because there was always the occasion when you would say somebody who I'm like, oh, shoot, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I was planning on Googling the name every time so I didn't make a fool out of myself.
Now, so we have something going on. I have called What Do You Got? And What Do You Got is a way for us to kind of chime in what's going on in our personal lives, professional lives. It could deal with the magazines or work that you're working on. It could be just an announcement, something to start a conversation, because we have a whole bunch of stuff we're going to start out with our first podcast. And we kind of laid out our next few podcasts here and there. So, Kristin, let's start with you. What do you got this week?
Recently I just returned back from Louisville, Kentucky, where GIE Expo was taking place. It's a large, probably the largest trade show for the green industry, with, I guess, I couldn't even tell you how many exhibitors, but they were expecting about 24,000 people there total. So it was a huge event for the industry. They even have demonstration areas where people can test out mowers and skid steers and things like that. So so that was kind of the biggest thing that I've been up to lately, just kind of catching up on sleep, because it was definitely a whirlwind week last week. A lot of equipment vendors introducing their new battery powered equipment, their newest and improved mowers and trimmers and just you name it. It was really exciting to be here.
Any travel issues for you? Planes all went all right? No drama?
Yeah, no, everything was good.
Good.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we'll get into GIE in a little bit, because I want to talk to you more about what you saw down there and things like that. So again, what do you got this week?
Oh, I have a great what do you got for you, John?
Of course you do.
Okay, so I mentioned I live in Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska is the home of the University of Nebraska. And the University of Nebraska is the home of the Husker football team, which anybody who knows anything about the Big Ten or the old Big 12 or lives in Nebraska knows that football is very important to this state. And we have a long tradition of winning 5 national championships, lots of high expectations. And you may not know it, but the Huskers started their season and they are 0-6.
I did know that.
It kind of has made the news, unfortunately. They had not won a game coming into Saturday. In fact, they had lost the last 10 games in a row, which is just unheard of around here. And I'm very happy to report that Saturday, the Huskers finally got their first victory.
So we went from Elizabeth talking about Cincinnati football nonstop to Husker football. This is great. From one to another. Fantastic. No, that's good. I'm sure people were celebrating in the streets in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh my gosh, the entire state breathed a sigh of relief.
I thought I felt something coming from Nebraska.
Yeah.
So my what do you got is, I don't think I told anybody here yet. I was in a very bad car accident Saturday night, like really bad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I can't really go into detail about it because it's still under investigation, and this is going to be a public podcast. So it's but yeah, my car. Let me see if I can show a picture of my car real quick. I'll hold up to the webcam so you guys can see it. There it is. Let's see if I can do that right there. Can you see that?
John.
Sort of. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's that happened on I-70 on Saturday night. So everyone was okay. 2-car accident. I was alone in the car, and the other passenger was alone in a passenger van driving. So yeah, that's my what do you got. It was quite an eventful weekend, to say the least. So anyway,
Are you okay?
I am fine. I have an airbag burn on my leg. That's the only injury I got.
Whoa.
Everybody deployed, and yeah. So I want that to be kind of an interesting what do you got, not a sad what do you got. So don't nothing is sad about it. I'm probably gonna get a new car out of the deal, so that's all right. Insurance should come through. So yeah, so I can keep you updated on that. But yeah, in this podcast too, we've gotten a lot of positive responses. Oh my.
Sorry.
Oh.
That's my daily call from the telemarketer.
That was Commissioner Gordon or something.
No.
So we sent a press release out about this podcast being released last week, and is that right?
Right. Friday.
Yeah, and we got a lot of responses saying, can't wait to hear you. This is fantastic. So sometimes you talk into these mics right here and you think no one is listening because it's just us now talking to each other. And it's kind of like, that's great. And you kind of put it out there into the ether. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. People are pretty excited about it. So I was happy to feel welcome back into the podcast world. So before we get into some of the things I want to talk about, we're going to try to condense this podcast to a little shorter. We were averaging just over a half hour for the last go round. I think we're going to try to average anywhere between 20 minutes to 30 minutes in that 25 minute range. Sometimes we'll go over, sometimes we'll go under. Is that okay with you? You're the one that was harping on me to get it to 20 minutes. Is that good with you? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just making sure, because I don't know. I listen to podcasts like 45 minutes to an hour. So
Yeah, I don't listen to podcasts.
Oh my God. Okay, never
I'm a
mind.
bad millennial.
We'll just turn her microphone back off. Okay. All right. So I want to talk about a little what's new in irrigation. And Ann and Kristin, you guys can chime in if you'd like when I talk about any of this stuff. And I'll touch on things that we've talked about in the past on the landscape side and some new stuff on the ag side. One of the topics that we talked about quite a bit during the last podcast was water sense. And one thing that I talked about quite a bit was water sense not being authorized by Congress, which means that it's funded out of the discretionary funds of the EPA. Which means that in a nutshell, whoever is the president or administrator can just with a strike of a pen get rid of what the water sense program in a day. There's no statute, there's no law saying that water sense must exist. Now it looks like there will be. There is a bill that passed both the House and Senate, the America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018. It is Senate Bill 3021. If anybody is nerdy enough to want to go read that piece of legislation, it's about 130 pages long. Anyway, the water sense program is in there for authorization. There is no funding attached to it. There's no minimum or maximum amount of money that water sense will be authorized at, other than the program shall exist by statute now. And in here, it talks a little bit about how it's going to be structured, talk about how the goals are to reduce water use, reduce the strain on public water systems, conserve energy, preserve water resources for future generations. Now, I'll get on a soapbox real quick here and say that I would rather it be positive in nature than negative in nature. The word conserve, reduce, that's fine, but one thing that the IA was really focused on was the original intent of this program, which is to promote and enhance the market for water efficient products and services in a positive sense, rather than taking away. We want to give these, promote these technologies into the marketplace. Now, it will say that it talks about voluntary labeling of and other communications regarding such products, buildings, landscapes, facilities, processes, and services. And it goes into irrigation technologies and services, point of use water treatment devices, plumbing products, water reuse and recycling technologies, landscaping and gardening products, including moisture control or water enhancing technologies, xeriscaping, and other landscape conversions that reduce water use. The IA was, I'll go on record now, was not in favor of that language. We tried to get it removed. We were successful in some iterations of this bill. We were not successful in this iteration. We felt that water sense's expertise lied on the technology side, not the plant side. But we will work with them to make this program great. And if that's part of it, it's part of it. So whole house humidifiers and water efficient buildings or facilities. So as far as the industry goes and the IA goes, we see that it is good news that the water sense program is authorized. It will be once the president signs this piece of legislation into law, which he's expected to do soon. I've heard no indications that he is not going to sign this bill into law. But yeah, so any thoughts on that, Kristin? You're tied in close to the landscape industry these days.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good for the industry. We've been following this and posted that recent news that that it did indeed pass. So yeah, I think it just kind of we'll continue to promote efficient irrigation in landscaping, and that's, I think, a trend that's not going away as water becomes more scarce and kind of people, municipalities and such, have a little bit more scrutiny on what's being used to water people's lawns and landscapes. So so it's a great.
Good. Yeah. No, we agree, and it's positive for the industry. We want to see it succeed, and right now it's being funded at about $3.5 million per year, which is peanuts in the grand scheme of things. So we'd like to see that funding go up a little bit, focus more on promoting efficient irrigation technologies and services in the marketplace, and look at the other programs that are associated with water sense to do that as well. So one other thing I want to bring up before we get into GIE and some other news, on the 19th last week, the president was in Arizona. President Trump was in Arizona and signed a presidential memorandum on promoting reliable supply and delivery of water in the West. Have you guys heard about this at all? Did it make the news out there near you?
I saw it online, but it
Online.
wasn't necessarily in the news here, in my region.
So for years, I've been with the IA since 2008. So the past 10 years in California was in a significant drought was basically in a drought. It got out of a little bit and then it hit a bigger drought later on. So in the 10 years that I've been here, they've been in some sort of drought in one way or another. And a lot of it was tied to the environment, lack of rain, natural cause drought. But even in times of rainy seasons, there is what's called a regulatory drought that exists as well, which means that water is tied up and cannot be used for either urban or rural uses because of environmental regulations. In this case, it's the Endangered Species Act. In other cases, it could be the Clean Water Act, et cetera. So the president signed a presidential memorandum stating that the Departments of Commerce and Interior shall work together to look at these types of regulations in California and look at opportunities to increase both infrastructure opportunities and storage and conveyance opportunities throughout California, focusing on making more water available for agriculture. So again, we see this as a positive thing. I know that some grower organizations, Family Farm Alliance, California Farm Bureau, Western Growers, and I believe California Water Alliance, forgive me if I'm wrong on that, they had a press release that went out welcoming this news. I know Congress has got on board with it, at least the majority parties in Congress, Republicans in Congress. But also the Wall Street Journal ran an editorial from the editorial board last week, over the weekend, that basically welcomed this news, which I was not surprised at, but I was surprised they ran it and surprised they focused on this from the Wall Street Journal. But it basically goes into some of the details about in 2010, a federal judge they scored the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services for sloppy science and unidirectional prescriptions that ignore California water needs. So it goes into a little bit about the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and the federal judge Wanger, who made that decision. So anyway, this has been a long time in the works, and it's one of the campaign promises that President Trump made on the trail, and so it was a welcome news throughout California and those farmers that need water for irrigation and for their operations. So we'll be looking more and more at that and what the outcomes are there through the conversations with the Interior and Commerce Department along with the administration. But again, it's welcome news from the IA side. Any thoughts on that? You live in California, Kristin. Any thoughts on that at all?
No, I think it's really great. It's so fascinating coming from a place like Ohio where water scarcity wasn't really much of an issue to living in California where it's very much a focus of every government from the state to the local level to the national level recognize there's so many people here. It's a very big agricultural area and we need to do our best to conserve this water. Now I know San Diego is doing something. Gosh, I was just looking at it last night, but they're doing a huge project that they're working on to make sure that their water is coming from local sources. So they're starting a water recycling project so that they're trying to increase the amount of water that they're getting from local sources, which I think other places in California are also doing that. I think Orange County has a similar program, and so it's great. It's great to see that they're looking towards the future because they know that water is scarce and they need to do something to make sure that it's there for its citizens for a long time to come.
Yeah. So you were just down at GIE, you mentioned that earlier, Kristin, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that. And GIE is a trade show for basically the landscape industry, right? It's not just irrigation. This is all parts of the landscape industry. What were some of what were the top two takeaways you took away from that meeting?
Yeah,
and
I would say,
real quick, how big was water? Was water a big discussion there, or was kind of not too much?
So really, I'm going to say it wasn't that big of a focus. Where you're really seeing equipment at GIE Expo, it's mowers and power equipment is the majority of what you see out there. Now there were some irrigation folks there. I know Conserva had a booth there, and some others, and there were some lighting folks as well. But I guess the two big takeaways is that though I think there's still pushback in the among landscape contractors, the manufacturers are really pushing battery-powered equipment. A lot of the power equipment companies have certain lines that are battery operated. It's just getting bigger and bigger, and I think the contractors are slowly adopting it, as well as the manufacturers are getting better at being able to make powerful equipment that is battery operated. Because I think one of the issues that they face is it's not as powerful as, say, a gas-powered piece of equipment. But if they can make something more powerful, then they will use it. And the funny thing is you talk to these manufacturers, some of them are from overseas, and they say, they just want the most powerful thing out there. And so getting them to adopt the battery powered stuff is a little bit of a hurdle there. They also had robotic mowers there as well. So while it was, it used to be kind of just maybe one or two manufacturers, there were a few robotic mowers that were on display that were commercial grade mowers. So you're seeing a little bit more of that. And it kind of ties in with what we've been really covering in the magazine quite a bit lately, is just the labor shortage. And if you can use equipment that requires less labor, then you're not facing that challenge. Is a great way to offset the inability to find people to do the job. And so I think we're going to see more of that.
Good. So you were there too, Sarah, right?
Right.
What'd you think?
Well, I'm relatively new to the irrigation and green industry.
So what was your initial reaction walking into the equipment?
Well, it was just huge.
Huge?
And I had no idea how many companies and brands and products were out there. So it was pretty eye-opening to me.
Good. Well, that's good. And you'll get more and more ingrained as you continue to work with Kristin on the Irrigation Green Industry side and with the IA. So that's good. Good.
Yep.
And it was interesting.
No, go, Kristin. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was interesting because it was just so huge, and Sarah was there, as well as Mary Villano, who's an editor with us. We covered so much terrain, and we visited so many companies. I believe I walked about 10 miles every day at the show. So we were just exhausted. It was good though.
Yeah. So Ann, you and I are heading out of town in a couple of weeks, right? Together?
Yes, going to the Farm Broadcasters Convention in Kansas City.
Yeah. So that is the meeting of all of the basically the ag radio stations all attend, and we are attending on behalf of the Irrigation Association. And I will say this podcast is going to be more towards the irrigation side. Our last iteration was big picture water. This is going to be more focused on irrigation. So we're going to welcome the fact that we are run by the Irrigation Association with open arms, and we're going to have a strict focus on irrigation. So we'll be representing the Irrigation Association there, and basically the ag radio stations walk around and interview us about issues facing the industry, which is going to be great. And we're hoping to tie this into a pretty cool feature we're having at the Irrigation Show this year, which is the first week of December in Long Beach, California, and that's Radio Row.
Right. I think it's going to be great for us to have a chance to see some of these broadcasters face to face, and they can talk to us about Irrigation Association and Irrigation Today magazine. And I even plan to turn the microphone around a little bit and ask them a few questions for a feature I'm working on for our next issue of Irrigation Today. But it'll be a great way for us to talk to them about Radio Row, because that's going to be an exciting thing at the Irrigation Show.
Yeah, and for those of you who are attending the Irrigation Show and want to meet some of these broadcasters, they're going to be looking to interview folks. So we're going to have a section on the trade show floor. You can stop by and meet with them, and hopefully it'll work out. If not, we'll give it a try next year. But I have a good feeling that it's going to work out. And I want to just show our magazines real quick for those of you who are on YouTube right now looking at the webcam. So this is your magazine, Kristin, right? That's the latest edition. I grabbed it from our...
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Good. So if it's one thing that people should read in this one, what would you suggest? What's the one thing you're most excited about? I know you're excited about the whole magazine itself, but what's the kind of one thing that people should turn the page to and say, you know what, I should read this first?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the cover story just kind of ties in with what I was just talking about with the labor shortage and how you can leverage equipment and technology to help reduce your need for labor.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to a lot of contractors who had some really great suggestions of things that they were doing because they really struggled to find help.
Yeah. And this is our latest. Gosh, it's like backwards. I can't. Okay. So irrigation today. Right?
There you go.
I'm moving my right hand thinking that this isn't. So what is, I'll ask the same question. What's, aside from the Farm Bill update, which was written by one of the best staff members here at the Irrigation Association.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. No, I don't, no. I'm as good as the staff around here, believe me. So what's the one thing people should read in here? What's the one thing that excited you the most in this magazine?
Oh, sure. That's the October issue,
Yes.
which is out in the world as we speak. And our feature was system maintenance. And we have 3 different articles to reach out to the different segments of the industry. We have an article about system maintenance for center pivots, system maintenance for drip systems, and then also system maintenance for your pump. And this is kind of perfect timing because as harvest wraps up here, hopefully sooner than later, that's when most irrigation operations kind of have a downtime, and it's a perfect chance to give your system a once over. And these articles provide step-by-step instructions for making sure that your system is operating at peak performance next year when you really need it to be.
Yeah. Whew. Well, that's all I had on my agenda, guys. This was a good podcast. I think it was, for the first time, it was good. It was better than the first podcast that Brent, Elizabeth, and I did. My goodness.
Good.
What's that dinosaur? That was something special. So I really appreciate you guys listening in. So the 3 of us are only be together a certain amount of time. Sometimes just be me and Ann. Sometimes me and Kristin. Sometimes it'll be just the 2 of y'all. Sometimes it'll be us and a guest. We want to try to get as many guests in as possible. Now that I have this technology figured out where we can have conversations with each other via the internet, and it sounds pretty good here. Hopefully it sounds as good when you listen to it on our other side. So yeah, I appreciate it. And what do you guys think of the new music? Do you like this music now that we have going for us?
I do. I like it.
Yeah, it's a little bit more upbeat.
I like it too.
Get it back going here. So my son did this. He put this together for me. I told my son, I was like, Jack, we need a new theme song for my podcast. Can you put something together on your computer and something more upbeat than we had before? And he said, sure. He was excited about it and put it together. So I have to give my son Jack credit for putting this together. Yeah, and it's our new theme song, and maybe we'll have some voiceover eventually. So yeah, well, thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate it. Again, you can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, as well as our app. We're on the Apple Store under Bringing Water to Life. So, Kristin, Ann, did you have fun?
Yes, thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, it's Bringing Water to Life. Thanks, everybody.